Hello, everyone. This is the lecture on the elements of art, the 8 tools for infinite expression. I think that's a nice subtitle. I think what I'll do is I'll walk through the elements of art really quickly. And the reason why I made elements of art the second week topic is that the elements of art are really profound. There's only 8 of them, but each element has an infinite ability to express something or express a range of things. It just goes on and on and on. And I'll be using examples from art history to show how the elements of art express themselves and how they get used by different cultures, artists, to express different things in different time periods. So let's start with the elements. I'm just going to read through them. You have access to this. There's a link provided for you on Moodle. Says read the elements of art. But just going to go through it really quickly. All artworks have the same language in them. You can find a line in any visual element. You can find shapes. And in fact, a line sometimes designates shapes, but then this is also a shape. I know this is pretty obvious. I'm just going to kind of go through it pretty quickly. And then we have form. Form is that three-dimensional shape that something takes, right? You could walk around it, or you could touch it and look at the front and the back. And then we have space, which creates the sense of space and a sense of scale. Something could be small in the background, something could be big in the foreground, and the space designates that for us. And then we have color, which is very self-explanatory, but there's color and there's a lack of color. There's black and white that is included in color, and we'll talk more about that as we go along. And then we have texture, right? You can have smooth, rough, medium textured, etc. You can have things in motion, and we know this from film that images can be shown in motion. That gives you a sense of time and people moving through space, etc. And then we have time, something that is easily overlooked, right? But something is made in a specific time, and then time elapses, and that time has an effect on the artwork or the object, or even on how we might perceive the meaning of the artwork. So time is an important element, right? So artifacts from 30,000 years ago might be unchanged if they're in a cave that hasn't been exposed to the elements. But if they are exposed to the elements, then time will have an effect. And even though that's really obvious, it's a profound aspect in the elements of design. So I have some examples here. Here's where you can read. Here's a link to the elements of design. I'd just like you to read through the elements for yourself and kind of get a sense for them. That's kind of a nice distilled down version of them. But I thought I'd start with texture. One of my favorite artists that express texture is Anselm Kiefer. This is a video at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art's webpage, and I'll include this in resources so that you can go back and watch it if you want. But so I wanted to show you a brief.
I don't do it now here, but then they come all.
Few seconds of it, and you see in the background there that Anselm Kiefer's paintings are highly textured. Here we go. They have a lot of texture. Of course, they have line and shape and things like that, but they have a lot of texture as well. And I'll also show you some of his paintings here in a minute. But I want to get a sense for that. There's a video that kind of gives you a sense of texture. Here we go. Here's a zoomed in bit of the straw. He uses straw, lead, cow manure. He uses things that have a lot of texture in his paintings. Yeah, here you go. You can get a sense for how textured his paintings are. So when you see his paintings in person, your first reaction might be to the texture. It's very visceral. And you come away with thinking that the texture is definitely part of the meaning, as well as the materials, right? But it gives you a good sense of
my
here's a nice.
Sometimes they change,
So it gives you a good example of the use of texture. Of course, there's color and there's line and there's shape and there's time, and he talks about that in the video how his paintings fall apart over time, and that's important to him, that the straw falls off, that the manure falls off, that the lead falls off, and that they're changing, and that's part of their meaning. And I think sometimes it's easy to forget that the elements of design can help point to the meaning, either the meaning of the subject matter or the meaning of the work itself, or it can even hint at the cultural values that are important to the culture, not just to the artist, but maybe to the culture. Or maybe it's the artist using the materials and the texture and the elements of design to critique the culture, and so thus the elements of design are being used to convey a meaning. So then I'd like to show you an obvious one, but one of my favorite. These are one of my favorite painters. This is Ellsworth Kelly. And Ellsworth Kelly, as you can tell, the first thing that you see is color and shape. And so the first thing you notice is the color and shape, and you're like, oh, these are about the color and shape. Of course, they have a line that denotes the exterior. They exist in time and space. They have form, and they have a scale. But the most important thing is the color and the shape. And you see that right away in all of his work. He was a minimalist painter. He just passed away a few years ago. I forget the exact date. But notice this is the elements of design are a window into the joy of these paintings and potentially the meaning, or maybe they're just about the shapes and colors. Maybe that is the meaning. One of my favorite pieces by Ellsworth Kelly is this one here, and I believe there's a bigger view of it down below, and I'll scroll down. But this is a gradient from a yellow all the way through violet and then back to yellow, and I'll discuss that here in a minute. I'm going to go down here, so bear with me. Here it is in a space. And you can kind of sense for the scale. Here's the window and the door over here. And there's another good example of another gradient painting here. So if you see this painting here, let's see if I can make it bigger. This is one of my favorite paintings because it's about color, it's about shape, it's about scale. But what it does here is it does something really amazing. And when you see this in person, you can see it much better, or you can see in a good reproduction. And each one of these panels, I believe, is about 5 feet tall. So it's a really large piece. But what this does is this is a painting that goes from a green yellow all the way to what we would call a red yellow. Or in color theory, we call this a cool color, and this is a warm color. This is a color that has green or blue in it, and this is a color that has red or orange in it. And what's happening is that this painting systematically marches through the different value shifts with a yellow with green in it. It becomes a little bit more green, becomes more blue-green, becomes more blue and blue-green. Then it kind of comes to its neutral blue. Then it shifts to a blue that has red in it or violet in it, and then it switches to violet, and then it switches to magenta, and then it slowly shifts from magenta to orange to yellow-orange to yellow-yellow-orange to a yellow with orange in it. And this is very significant because this is a hard thing to do. I tell people all the time, like, this is hard to do. Like, if you don't believe me, try it. Just get some colored pencils out and see if you can recreate it. It's difficult because it's about these really simple shifts in color, but they're also really profound because you have to know color theory really well. You have to understand the difference between warm colors and cool colors. And so in this example, color, and as well as the shape and the scale, really help to convey that. I think it's important that it's big because the viewer then can take in this shift of color. All right, so I think that's pretty clear, but sometimes people have a difficult time with this because they think, oh, I could do that. That's too simple. It's so easy, but really it's not. And if you don't believe me, I think give it a go. That's how you learn. Like, give it a go. Get some paint out and see if you can make a painting that goes from a yellow with green in it to a yellow with red or orange in it. All right.